Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mental TV. Today, I am excited to bring you Julia Lage of Vixen. But before we begin, I just want to remind you to subscribe to Mental TV and to make sure you click that notification bell. Here we go. Hi, Julia. Welcome to MetalNet.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so
Um,
excited that you are a part of Vixen, and I want to hear everything about you joining the band. So can we start there?
Absolutely, yes, for sure.
Okay.
So what do you want to know? What do you want to know?
All right, I want to play by play of the whole thing and how it happened. So a lot of us kind of start at the point where Cher is at, I guess it was the Monsters of Rock pre-show.
Pre-party, yeah,
Pre-party.
the pre.
And yeah, and I guess, and please correct me at any point if I'm wrong, but at some point when Vixen are playing the pre-party, Cher makes this announcement that she needs to take a few things off her plate and she's taking a hiatus.
Yes.
And then we're going to tell it in more detail, but basically she steps aside after playing some songs, and then you step in and play some songs, and then we go from there. But there's a story before that. So I want to learn that story.
Well, the story is kind of simple for me, at least. Obviously, I knew Vixen, of course, but I was doing my things, my solo stuff, my band, and I was actually playing with my band in Big Bear, and then Brit called me, and I know Brit for a while now, and I didn't even realize, but it's been like 6 years or something, if not, I don't, yeah, maybe 6 years. We, in the beginning, when I met her, I don't remember where we met. We were talking about that. I think it was like an audition for something. Don't remember. And I remember she was the only one that I liked playing on the band. And I think she thought the same. So we exchanged numbers. And then a few weeks later, we met again at Jerry Cantrell's house. He had a party there, whatever. So I'm there, I'm like, Brit? She's like, Julia? And then I'm like, oh my God. So we start chatting, and then we try to put together something after that, like me and her with the singer from my band. And, we're like, oh, what can we do? Originals, maybe do covers. What can we do? Like the beginning of every project sometimes can be confusing. So, and then I remember she got the call to join Vixen.
Okay.
And then she ended up going, obviously, to play with Vixen, and I was super happy for her. I was like, man, you go, man, this is great, it's a great gig. And then I ended up doing my stuff with my band, me and my singer. But years later, I'm playing with my band in Big Bear, and Brit called me and she's like, hey, how have you been? And I'm good. And she's like, so between us, because that was like, I don't know, November perhaps, she's like, we've been talking, Sherry's been talking about maybe taking a hiatus and everything. Would you be interested in joining the band, join Vixen? I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, yes, I mean, it went. So we were talking, and of course they had like probably a few other girls in mind. So she was like, well, I'm gonna tell the girls they're super stoked. So I don't know what they talked about, but what I know that is that they called me later, and then I talked to the manager too, and they were like, we want you, and we want to do something like a very nice transition on stage. Okay. And I love that idea. I was like, that couldn't even be better, like. So yes, we went to the Monsters of Rock pre-sale away party, right? And so Cher, and I met them there. Actually, I met them that day.
Okay. So you only knew Brit before this,
I
right?
only knew Brit, yes. Okay. So we kind of I talked on the phone with Lorraine a little bit, and Roxy, and not Cher. But so then we met in Miami, and I was like, oh my God, they're so, like, all of them are so nice. Everybody's super nice. And then I was talking also to Cher, and she was happy with her decision, which is good. Of course, it's probably a bittersweet, yeah. But she was super happy. Everybody was like in a good, I don't know, spiritual place, I guess. Like everybody was good with everything, and I felt good because it can be a hard transition, and if you don't know everybody, or if I don't know, it's like when you're new in class, you're getting, you know what I mean? Like, it's always different. So, but I had a good feeling. Everybody was super nice. And then that's what we did. We did the transition on the stage. So Cher, I think.
Did Cher do like a few songs? Did she do like half?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was like a full set, or maybe like an hour set, something like that. So if I'm not wrong, she played 6 or 7 songs. Then when she did her last song, she announced to everybody what was going on and how was it going to be. And so then she introduced me. Mm-hmm. And so she stepped back, I stepped in, and I played the 3 last songs. But the last song, she came back and we were all singing together. And,
I love it.
So she came back and we were all singing together. It was like a love fest kind of thing. It was emotional for me. I was emotional. I was like, oh my God, we had a hug. And they're like, don't cry, don't cry. Like,
You'll ruin the pictures.
It's like, I can't understand, like that transition, even though she's in a great, place on her other stuff, it's usually like, oh, I'm gonna miss you guys, whatever. So I don't know. I was emotional too. So that was very interesting. I mean, I'm so happy with everybody there. Like, I couldn't be happier, honestly, with the whole welcome. They were so welcoming, like.
I mean, it sounds like they're so excited to have you. And I mean, people will be seeing the Lorraine interview a week before they see this. But I talked to Lorraine and they're like so excited to have you. And like, just, it sounds like a big old love fest, so.
It is. It's so interesting because we can even talk about that a little bit. But I had before my first band, I was 17 and it was my first professional band. And I stayed there for 13 years. Mm-hmm. It was an all-female band in the beginning. Then we changed a little, but it was so difficult. Such a weird experience. I didn't know anything about it because I was new in music. And there was a lot of bully in it. And I didn't know it because I didn't know. I was like a child, a teenager, whatever. And a lot of the opposite of Vixen. It was like, oh, don't post this picture, she's too pretty, stuff like that.
Okay, so very petty and.
Yeah, and I never got that until I left the band. And then years later, now I'm with Vixen, where it's all girls, but it's just so much the opposite. And I love that so much. It's like one is supporting the other and like cheering the other, which how it's supposed to be, I think, like we're on the same boat. Literally.
Literally.
Literally. So it's like I loved all that. So I'm so, my heart is full with this, like with me joining another band that is all girls. Right. But it's such an opposite experience. And I'm like so happy. I mean, I couldn't be happier,
It was a really surprising announcement. I don't think any of us, like fan-wise, expected it, but it was such a beautiful transition. The way you guys did it was so beautiful to have, I wasn't there, but I heard about it from the people who were there,
right,
sharing, information.
Yeah,
but,
YouTube, I think there's some stuff there.
Yeah. And there was some, and then there were just people like, we were like, oh my God, what happened? And like, tell us what you heard. And people were trying to share information, all positively, by the way. But it was interesting that, she shared, you started playing songs and then you shared the stage together. And there's so many beautiful pictures of all of you, together, in the bow or what have you and that. And then I believe originally they were supposed to be on the cruise and then they obviously made the decision that it's just not going to work. It's quick to get you on the cruise, but then you went on to do what you were already planning to do on the cruise with your other bands that you're playing with. What was it like for you to be on that cruise doing what you were scheduled to do, but knowing that like as soon as you get back you have this whole new world starting for you with Vixen?
It was pretty exciting because I've been going to that cruise for a while now because my husband always played there. So I played there before a few times, whatever, jams here and there. But this time was obviously different because then it was funny because I would just, be walking around or whatever. And they're like, oh, congrats on the new gig. You're a good fit. Yes. They're all excited. And I was like, and then I started realizing, I was like, oh my God, this is actually happening. And not only that, I realized that it's like a huge, big family. Like the fans are just amazing, you know, and they're like, I think one of the good ideas of the transition also on stage is that shows that nobody laughed on like weird terms, you know, like the transition was just natural.
Yeah.
And it was the way they wanted to do. So there's no like, oh, who's this chick now? You know what I mean? There's no weird.
There's usually weirdness in these types of situations, and it wasn't this time.
I mean, usually, but there it wasn't, and it wasn't for real. And I think the whole idea of exchanging on stage was super clever too, because of that. It shows everybody that everybody's fine. Well, like I talk to Cher here on Instagram, like we like each other's photos, whatever, you know, like
Totally.
Everything is fine. So I think they also noticed that, and it makes a good difference. And I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be a fun run for sure. You know,
you ended up doing the cruise because you already had plans to be there. How long did you have after that time where you were on stage with the girls before you started joining them on the tour? Like before you joined them for the first time for the full show? It wasn't very much time, was it?
No.
In March then.
So it was March. I played March with them and was with Bret Michaels. That's why. So I remember now. Was the first show was with Bret Michaels, which was funnest, you know, like it was just like Bret Michaels behind us, and then the big hair, like the crowd was great. And then I remember now that was my first full show with them. Yeah. Jesus Christ, my brain. But so
well,
yeah, so that
you remember you had so many things going on. It was like boom, 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 boom.
It was. But now I remember after the cruise, I jumped on an airplane to tour with Smith Kotzen in UK. So that was a 3 weeks run. And then I had to switch my brain again back. I had 1 week from Smith Kotzen to Vixen show to remember all the songs. And then that was it. But the first show was so fun. Yeah. So fun. I mean, the stage was great because it was a stage that was sharing with Brad. So it was a great place. The crowd was packed. The crowd was so into it. Yeah. I was like, yes, I'm going to have a blast.
It's going to be the perfect audience for a Vixen crowd because I feel like the Brett crowd and the Vixen crowd are probably the same.
Absolutely. They're all about having fun.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, nothing better than that. Like you're going to a rock show, you want to have fun, you know?
Did you get to rehearse during that week with the girls?
No.
Fun.
No, because everybody's somewhere else. Actually, right. Funny enough, Britt lives 15 minutes from me.
Okay.
But so before I went to the cruise with them, actually me and Britt, we ran the songs together, you know, so we ran all the songs.
Okay.
So then I kind of had that already in my mind. I mean, I remember the songs, even though I play with Smith Kotzen, I still had the songs. And so that whole week I was just running the songs and, you know, watching some YouTube to make sure how they do live and etc. And then we did run the songs on the room in the hotel, you know what I mean? Like before, like some harmonies, make sure I'm doing the right harmonies. And that was it. And then it was 1, 2, 3, rock and roll, ready to go.
Go.
But I like that because they're awesome. So, I mean, they've been doing those songs for a while. We did have a few new songs, but you know, they're so professionals that it's just, you know, I think if you do your homework, you just have fun. Right. So that was good.
Did you get to get new clothes for Vixen? Because I feel like they're fancy and fun, and I imagine that if you wanted to, you could justify getting new clothes for Vixen.
No, I was considering. I didn't get any new clothes, but I did got a boot actually on the cruise.
Nice.
I got this beautiful cowboy boot, like snake skin, and I'm like, that's the place to use it. And I did. I did use my cowboy boots. I love it. But I love that because it is like a fun show where you get to really dress up and everything. I miss that too, you know, sometimes, you know.
Did you get to do that with any of the other bands that you've been playing with the last few years?
Not so much. Not so much. I mean, I always do my little thing.
Right.
But I feel like with Vixen, I have the opportunity to actually abuse a little.
Yeah, you could totally abuse the privilege. Yeah. Those girls are like, I've told Lorraine this so many times, and they've been my style icon since I was, you know, 13 or however old I was when they released the first album, you know.
Yeah, they have all the good stuff too. Like
They do.
I'm like, look at well, Roxy has the best pants. I'm like, dude, you're
Always.
gonna have to give me that contact. But the thing is, I think she ordered, but her body's perfect. I'm like, holy man, how do you keep your body that in that great shape? Perfect. And then I think she orders that online or something. I'm like, if I order online, I doubt it's gonna fit on me. But anyways, but they do have the best clothes, and I'm like, oh my god, I love that. So I told Richie, I said, hey, don't be surprised if I show up with new bags in the house.
I think you should. I think this is justified now. It's a business expense.
No, absolutely. And you know, nothing better than that.
Legitimately a business expense. Even if it wasn't, you just pretend it's one.
Of course. But you know what's funny? Richie played in Poison back in the day. So he still have a few fun outfits that he doesn't wear anymore. It doesn't even fit him. I'm like, listen, that's the time to put that out of the closet again. Like lend it to some fun jackets. Even
I would do it, Julia. Do it.
I told him, he's like, oh, I don't know. Maybe when I keep in the closet. I'm like, maybe not.
I two thumbs that. I think you should do it.
I know. I mean, it's the best.
What else are they gonna do? They're just gonna sit there.
Look at this bucket of
what
coffee.
What are you drinking, by the way? What are you drinking?
It's coffee with some cream. Look, Cheech, my dog.
Oh,
being a little pasty. I'm gonna tell Dad away, but I'm drinking coffee.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, do you remember what the very first song you played with Vixen was?
It was Streets in Paradise.
I actually knew the answer to that. I could have helped you with that one if you didn't remember. That's, I think, the best song live. I think you got the absolute best song to play.
It was so fun. I was like, yeah, that's a good pumped up song to start. So yeah.
I've always loved that song, but I didn't realize how much I loved it until I finally saw Vixen live. That's a live song.
It is. I mean, it's fun to jam on a car too, or like if you're running, but for sure to play live is so fun. Yeah. I love this.
That's when I knew. I was like, oh, this is kind of Love Made Me has always been my favorite, and it still is. But after that, now I'm like, oh, I kind of think Streets of Paradise might also be my favorite, because after live, you hear it differently. So I love that you got that as your first song ever.
Yes, and I don't know, the energy is just so good, and then I love those songs that is like pumped up songs that you can just run on the stage and do your thing. Like to play is usually way better for me as a musician, way better than listening to the song. Mm-hmm. I love just playing, even like, in the house, listening to the song. Like, let me get the bass and jam with this song. I just love jamming with the song. So. But yeah, that was a good first one for sure.
That's awesome. So before I move into talking about your solo music, which I'm also very excited about, how are you going forward? Does Vixen now become the priority, or are you still going to be taking all these other gigs? Because I feel like you play in so many different bands. Are you going to be touring with multiple bands, or does it become sort of like Vixen, and then if you have time, it goes to maybe your solo stuff? Like, how are you going to balance all of the projects?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to balance, but Vixen is on top for sure. But they book the shows with a lot of the advance, so it's good, so we can actually manage. If I want to do something solo or something else, I can manage, that's for sure. I was only playing with Smith Cotton, so now they are in a break, because I don't know if people are aware, Smith is from Adrian Smith, so he's the guitar player of Iron Maiden. So now he's going
on his own tours. Okay,
he's going on tour with Iron Maiden, and those tours are usually long tours. So you know what I mean. And when it comes time again to do another one with Smith Cotton, I'm sure I'm just gonna talk to the girls and be, hey, listen, maybe. And it's usually like 3 weeks for.
Okay,
so that's an easy fit.
Might even work out in your favor that these bands go on tour at this time, and maybe these bands kind of end up at different times anyway.
Yeah, and a lot of people have different projects. Like even the guys from Smith Cotton, they have Iron Maiden. My husband has his solo stuff. So it's usually normal. Like the bands talk among each other and then find a way to just accomplish everything. But right now, I mean, I don't even know when the next show is gonna be. So I'm full on Vixen. And
Nice.
whenever I have time, I'll do my stuff, you know?
Very nice.
So yeah.
Speaking of your stuff, you just recently released a new single,
Yeah.
Wake Up, which I love and I've been sharing on my channel. But
Yeah.
it's not your only single. You've actually have some other, I'm going to read them to make sure I get them correctly. Hey
Okay.
You, Confess, Wake Up. And you did have a Christmas song as
I
well.
do.
Nice. This is
Yes.
awesome. I love all of them, but I was telling you before we started the interview, Hey You is definitely my favorite. And it's sort of your experimental song, not like a traditional rock or metal song, very
Yeah.
different, but it's incredibly beautiful. And I noticed you were singing in a couple of different languages. You were playing the flute,
Yes.
obviously playing bass. So please tell me about that song first, because I'm just really enamored with that one.
Yeah, I mean, that song, I had the idea years ago, and it was a vignette kind of thing. It was just a little verse. And I loved it. I loved the chords. I had the melody. I didn't have lyrics. But I always thought it was a nice song. And so quarantine hits. And I'm like, I couldn't just stay home drinking, eating, and watching TV. I was like, I did that though, don't take me wrong. But after a while, I was like, okay, this is taking longer than everybody thought. So I was like, I'm going to start working on my music. Now I have time to actually sit and do my music. So I wrote the lyrics and I extended the song. And I had an idea of maybe changing the tempo and then doing something Brazilian because I'm from Brazil. So that's the transition. I changed to kind of like a samba vibe, Brazilian stuff. And I sing in Portuguese. But my goal there was to get better on Pro Tools, for example. I was like, okay, I want to really get better on Pro Tools and really see if I can be self-sufficient, at least, you know, a little, at least be able to sit and start something and finish and release. So that was my whole process of like learning a little how to record, how to get a better sound, really recording other instruments that is not bass. So like singing, the flute, the acoustic guitar, all the percussion. Actually, I did some percussion in this table that I'm sitting because I didn't have the percussion, and I mean, I was locked in the house. So I did all on my own, and I was very proud of the results. And I was like, you know what, since I'm going to do all on my own, I'm going to try everything that I can. So I put flute, bass solo, sang in Portuguese, changed the tempo. I did everything. But I was happy with the results. I mean, I was proud of myself. It was a challenge for myself, period. And, you know, I just like, I love that you love the song too.
I really loved that one. It spoke to me.
And I did a video too, and the video was on quarantine. So everything you see on the video is around my neighborhood, you know? So it was very, very special for me. And the lyrics, I think, has like a good, you know, message, you know, and I love it. I love that it was my first solo stuff that I put it out, and I'm very proud. Thank you though for liking it.
Of course. And did all the singles that I mentioned, did they all come out during this time?
You know, I've been writing songs for a long time, but I don't finish them. I have this bad habit that I record them, I do the whole thing, I do the demo, and I like the demo, and I just keep jamming on the demo. Mm-hmm. And then honestly, Richie was the one that helped me a lot with the whole listen. The song's pretty much ready. Finish and release. You know what I mean? And I'm like, who's gonna care about this song? It's like, doesn't matter, it's for you. And I'm like, you're right. I owe that for myself. Right. So I start finishing the songs, and I have now material enough that I could probably do 2 albums. Wow. So I'm working on my first album. It's gonna be my solo stuff, and I have all the drums, pretty much all the guitars. You need a few solos, basses. I'm gonna change a few things, and I'm gonna work actually in April now, this month, on doing vocals and trying to finish this album.
Oh, that's amazing. Is the full album gonna have some of these songs on it, or will it be all new stuff?
All new stuff.
Wonderful.
Maybe I'll add this, at least Confess and Wake Up probably in the album, because the album is gonna be more like rock.
Okay.
You know,
They would fit. They would fit.
they will
Well.
probably fit, yeah. But I still have at least a good 9 new songs there.
That's great. When are you
Yeah.
hoping that that will be out?
Well, it all depends on how much time I have to work. So like now in April, I'm going to be doing vocals and doing some bass. I'm trying to get a few guests for guitars, and I don't know. I don't like putting deadlines, because
Yeah,
then I feel like,
deadlines.
oh my god,
Pressure.
but maybe hopefully June, July, hopefully.
But 2022?
Oh yeah, yeah. I really wanted to finish for 2022. That's for sure. Yeah, and then you have to get the art, do the pictures,
Right.
everything. So yeah.
Yeah. And are you, did you say that you had played everything on the album yourself or so far?
Well, so what I do play everything, and then I program the drums. So then I went to my friend's house, Mike Odabash, he's the guy that did the drums for me. He's my good friend. Actually, I toured with him in the band Kicking Harold. We opened for the Winery Dogs in
Oh, cool.
2015, I think. And so I know him for a long time, and he's such a nice guy. And he's super into the project. He's like, let me know, I'll do the drums. So I go to his house, and he kind of, played the drums, basically records for me. And then I brought all the sections to my house, and now I'm trying to, see the bass lines, fix a few things. I did the guitars, but a few of the guitars, I'm not a guitar player, I'm not gonna lie, but I like, creating. So I get the guitar parts. I had my friend help me, but he basically re-record what I did, but better. Okay. Because you're gonna hear some here and there. So he's like, let me go. So now I'm gonna mix his guitars and my guitars and see which one works better, whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's it. But yeah, I produce, I arrange, I create, I write the lyrics, I write the song, I do the whole. Yeah. I like that process. Yeah. Like the idea is here, and I start piling up stuff on Pro Tools. I get the shaker, the whatever, and then hear the whole thing. I'm like, yeah, even if it's half-assed, then I just find the friends to try to, make it sound better. But I love that process of creating. That's one of my favorite things for sure.
I love it. Well, that's great. I'm really looking forward to seeing that album. I'm glad it's going to be coming out this year. I talked to Lorraine about the Vixen music as well. So have you even had a chance to jump in on that process? She mentioned that she had asked you if you had any, anything that you wanted to kind of put on the table yet. And I just wondered if you even had a minute to even think about Vixen songs.
I did. It's funny you ask, because ideas, they come and go. And if you don't grab them, they go. So like, I remember I was driving, and this melody just came to my head, and I was like, oh, this would be a cool song for Vixen. And I could hear the backgrounds, because that's how my brain works. And I was like, yeah. So I got my phone, and I was like, I was singing to my phone. So one other night I was sleeping, and then another melody came to my head, and I was like, oh, this could be a Vixen song. And there, so I had two ideas. They don't even know that.
Oh, that's it. We're hearing it first. Yeah, I love it.
Know. So I do have two ideas that I thought I could work around and present them with something. And me and Brit, we talk about jamming, some ideas. Definitely some risks, because what I like about Vixen too, they have a lot of riffs that guitar and bass play together and stuff like that, so that's fun. I do have a few riffs, and it's funny you say that, because I was talking to Richie today. I was like, you know what, I have to sit and put a little material together, so I can go to Brit's house, for example, and then we can jam a few things, because I do have already a few ideas. And so that's all exciting to me, like, I don't know, obviously everybody has to like the song, but like, I'm already for sure already thinking about that too, because, I just love, again, creating.
Yeah. I didn't ask you this before, but were you influenced by Vixen? Like, when did they come into your life? Like, did you grow up with them at all?
It's funny, because I knew a few songs. I didn't know it was from Vixen, because I'm from Brazil, mm-hmm. and I grew up there, and I moved to United States in 2013. Mm-hmm. So it's almost 10 years ago. But so before that, I was in a completely different world, but I heard a few songs. I just didn't know it was Vixen.
Okay.
So then when they sent me the set list, I mean, when I moved here, I knew Vixen. I got to know them and the whole thing, especially when Brit joined the band. I was like, oh yeah, this is so badass. But when I started learning the songs, I was like, I know those songs. You know?
I totally know these songs.
Right. So you finally connect, you know, the dots. But coming from a different country, you know, I was not all connected to the band. But I mean, actually, I knew the songs, but I just didn't know it was.
You just didn't know the names.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. What did you grow up listening to music-wise when you were very, very little?
Very, very little. Music was classic. Was Mozart, Beethoven, Chopin, Tchaikovsky, like literally classical music. And I used to love that. And I started playing flute, and then I don't know how you guys call the flute. We call flauta transversal. So I started playing flute to actually play in orchestras.
Okay.
Yeah, but then, you know, I became a teenager and I wanted to be a drummer. And I was listening to rock and roll. Actually, my mom introduced me to, you know, Led Zeppelin. She introduced me to James Joplin, to AC/DC, to all the good stuff. And then so I switched my brain a little to rock. And then back then in Brazil, they were playing a lot of Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, you name it, you know, all the bands, Police, Rush. And then I learned about Rush. Excuse me. In Brazil, they're playing, was it Tom Sawyer probably? And I remember listening on the radio. I had the tape. I mean, and I'm like, whoa, that band again. So I will record the tape, and then later on, you know, go back tape. Like, we didn't have YouTube or Google or anything.
Right. So you just had to like listen over and over and over again, and
all using the ears. And I didn't know that he was a guy. I swear to God, he was a chick singing. And I was like, this chick singing this song, what do you say about his company? And I'm like, later on, I figure out that Rush was actually all man. And Eddie Lee was the singer. But anyway, so I grew up listening to classical music and rock and roll. And I wanted to be a drummer. And I even told tell the story to Rox. I said I wanted to be a drummer, but we used to live in an apartment in Brazil, and there was no space to fit a drum kit. And I was like, all right, so I'm gonna be the bass player. Because I wanted to be in the rhythm section. I always liked it. Growing up in Brazil, we play, I mean, they play samba. I don't know if you're aware of the rhythms in Brazil, but there's a lot of written there, like, you know, like samba, chachado, whatever, you name it, bossa nova, Brazilian jazz. There's all like different rhythms. So I always liked the rhythm. I never really liked to dance, but I liked the rhythm. So I thought it was going to be a drummer or something. And the bass is the best combination because you have both. So I ended up being a bass player, which I love.
And how old were you when you picked up the bass?
I was probably 13, 14, because I was playing flute, but my school had music. So I always sing in a choir there. So it was like a big choir, big stuff. And they gave me a violin when I was young to learn. And I had classes, but I was bad. And I would get the violin, funny enough, not knowing what a bass was. Instead of playing with the bow like that, I would put the bow away, turn the violin down, and play like that, like the bass. But I didn't know what the bass was. I was little. So I was already a bass player without knowing I was.
You just had it in you. You just had it in you.
Yeah. So yeah, but I got the real bass when I was probably around 13, 14, because I built a bass because my mom was like, I'm not going to give you another thing, so you're going to move on. And you know what I mean? I'm like, no, I really want the bass. So I got like a piece of wood, some strings, and then I put it there and I pretend I was like, see, Mom, I got a bass. I'm going to play the bass. And she's like, I think she really wants the bass. And that was a good idea.
Nice. Nice. She was just probably afraid that you were going to keep walking around playing that thing in front of her friends and embarrassing her. So she probably just went to buy you a real bass.
Exactly. Take this away from me and burn it.
You're an evil genius, Julia.
Manipulative, huh?
I love it. I love it. All right. So at what point did you join your first band? Was it soon after playing the bass, or did you more noodle around by yourself for a while?
Well, I noodle around for like 1-2 years, and then on that time I put together a band with my friends from school, all girls too, by the way. Nice. 3 girls. So I would be the ones sitting on the drums, play and showing her, play like that, you know, and then she would play. But because I always was curious, so I always like to get a sound out of whatever instrument. So I was like that the whole time. So I was teaching her the drum parts. My friend was playing keys. We were all singing. Then I was around probably 14, 15. Then when I was 17, I got invited to join this band in Brazil. There was already a band that was pre-established. And I joined the band, my professional band, my first professional band at 17 years old. And I stayed there for 13 years.
And this is, I'm going to try to say it, Barra da Saia.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about this band. What kind of music did you play with them?
So it was a full-on country band when I joined, but I was already a rock chick. And I remember I brought a lot of the rock influences, not only on the music, but on the performance. You know, I'll be like on the side of the stage with my hair, and they'll be like, okay, cowboy hats and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, let's rock. So we invented a style called Rossing Ho. Roça is like countryside. Okay. So like Rossing Ho, so like country rock, let's put it this way. That was the name of one of our albums that actually was nominated for a Latin Grammy that year. Nice. So the band built a good career, but it did that, and then for all kinds of different reasons start going down. And so I stayed there for 13 years. I learned a lot, but that was my first band, and it was already a it was professional band, and it became a pretty big band in Brazil. I was playing like for thousands of people every night. So did a lot of TVs, a lot of radio. So I learned a lot with the band because I was like a shy little thing. I thought I was rock and roll, so I was like this, you know, like the bass and then I went to the TV, and the guy behind the camera was doing this. And I'm like, what is this jacket is asking me to do? I'm like, you know, I'm doing my thing. And then I learned that once you're in TV playing country, it had to be all about like, yeah. So I learned all that in Brazil, how to have like, you know, like a good stage presence, how to act on TV, whatever, you name it. Because before I was a very shy girl, believe it or not. So, I mean, I learned a lot, but it was 13 years, but I was completely clueless of what, you know, bands could be, or like camaraderie. How do you say that word?
Camaraderie,
yeah, all that stuff, because that band was very different. Like I was almost hired, although I was part of the band. I was almost like hired, and like there was a lot of weird things that I wasn't aware of.
So Julia, was the band already together and then you came in after the fact?
Yeah, and I was the youngest one.
Okay.
I was 13 years younger than everybody else in the band.
Oh, okay. So you really were significantly younger.
Yes.
Yeah. And
I don't know. It was a big learning for me. But like I as I told you, I felt like I was bullied sometimes because I was learning everything. You know, I was like a shy, 17-year-old. I mean, you were literally a kid when you joined. So yeah, and they're already like 13 years older than me. They were like grown ups. They lived alone, and they have homes. And I was like, I'm still living with my mom. My mom had to come to the first gigs, because in Brazil, if you're not 18, you can't just go out and play. Right. So I had to have my mom come in the beginning, and so it was super new to me. But yeah, that built a lot in me of how to do stuff and what not to do as well.
So if you were like nominated for these big awards and you were together for so long and you had a bit of a climb, does that mean that you and your bandmates were known in Brazil? Were you big enough to be like well known in Brazil?
Back then, yes. And well, let's not forget, I left Brazil 10 years ago. When we're going, it was like 2007, maybe. So it's been a long time. Nowadays, if you talk about the band, I think still exists, but it's just, you know, every member left. It's just one member, and nothing new happened, I guess. Nothing really new happened since then. But I don't know, man. Back then, we were kind of, yeah. Like I remember going to the mall and people stopping me and stuff like that. So, yeah, and I was young and I was like, oh my God, it's good. So it was a great experience. But you know, it just, you know, I think some projects don't last forever. You know,
right?
And it's fine. I mean, it's fine. It's all good.
You chose to leave it. Was it because you were ready to move to LA?
No, I never thought about leaving the country.
Oh, no? So how did that happen then?
So what happened is I met Richie.
Oh.
If you guys don't know, I'm married to Richie Cotton, and he was the reason. So we met in Brazil, and then we started to date. It was a long process. It was difficult, you know, because obviously I was there, he was here. And then I was 13 years later, I was kind of ready to do something new. You know, I was playing the same stuff for 13 years. I'm like, I wouldn't mind doing something new. And he was like, well, why don't you then come live with me in LA so we can be together? And I was like, in LA? Like what? Live so that was a long process. And I think it was meant to be, because it's not easy. It's not easy to move out of the country. Like I had to, my home, I had to rent my stuff. I have to put somewhere else. I had 2 dogs back then. I had my whole life there, you know, like my band, I told them, listen, I think it's time for me to move on and do something else. Because I was not creative anymore. I was like, kind of like existing. I wasn't living, you know? So I liked the change. It was a crazy experience, but it took me a while to adjust again. My English wasn't good. I mean, you know, you have to live in the country to speak better. So
yeah,
it was a long process, but basically because me and Richie fell in love with each other, literally. It's like a love story.
That's amazing. I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So then you ended up coming to LA, and then what was the next musical adventure for you once you were in LA?
Well, I did a bunch of stuff, but always playing with friends, you know, like doing cover gigs, doing even church. I play a little bit in the church in the beginning, doing all kinds of things that, by the way, I never did. Because when I started playing, I feel like for real playing, I joined that band and I stayed there for 13 years. So I had never done, for example, a bar gig.
Okay.
I was backwards.
Like you went straight to the professional, kind of a higher level, and you didn't have a chance to do the things that most people do at the beginning of their career.
Never. So when I came here, I was doing some bar gigs, bringing my own amp. Like I had a rodeo, you know? I was like, okay, so I have to buy an amp, get an amp, set up, set everything. The PA, I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? And then the gigs can get long, you know? And I was like, what? So I was doing the opposite. But that was so humbling in a weird way. And it was fun for me because I was actually playing all the songs that I always loved it. And I was like, yeah, and then getting my chops back, the whole thing, singing, whatever. So I did a bunch of those gigs. Then I, you know, met my friend, the singer of my band, and then we'd start, you know, I was already writing, she was writing too. We're like, let's write together. So we put together the Sister Knots, which is my band. It's been like almost 6 years now that we're together. And then I start playing with them, basically. You know, sometimes you get hired here and there. different projects. I play with Nuno a few times, Nuno Bettencourt.
Yeah.
My brother, he looks like he could be my brother. You know, I did some fun stuff. Like I played with Janelle Monáe at the Jidena at the American Idol finals. And I loved it because Steven Tyler was there as one of the judges. And I was so excited. I mean, Steven Tyler is probably I don't know. I love him to death. Like, you know, he's my idol. Him and Geddy Lee. So I did a lot of fun stuff in LA. I played with a bunch of people, but I was basically doing that, you know, like gigs everywhere, gigging.
Yeah.
Which is good. I liked it. I learned a lot too.
Now for Sister Not, for anybody who hasn't heard that band, how would you describe that sound?
It's rock and roll. It's rock and roll for sure. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he has a little bit of all kinds of influences. So for me, for instance, I would say there's a little bit AC/DC, a little bit Alice in Chains, a little bit, you know, Heart. That's, you know, good influences that we have for sure. And guitars, you know, our guitar player, Pablo Martins, is such a badass. He can solo for days. So live, we like to just jam a lot, you know, and we like to, I mean, me and her, we both have like, you know, like we love Stevie Nicks, for example. We love Nancy Wilson and Ann Wilson, Vixen, you know, like strong singers. So we like to definitely use harmonies a lot. I'm all about harmonies. So we like to do like big vocals. You know, it's just straight rock and roll.
That's awesome. And then where does Sister Not come in with like Vixen in your solo and all of that work?
So yeah, that's interesting because we're really focusing on just doing, because we write together too. So we're focusing on doing a lot of the original stuff. So we've been doing shows that mostly focus on our songs, and we always writing together. And you know, it's not something that we're like super like, oh my god, let's like make it, you know, we're almost like doing as passion. So
I was gonna say, is it more of a passion project?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. I mean, we always have shows. I mean, we're always playing, but I don't think, I mean, again, I'm super into Vixen right now, and I'm so excited to actually go out and like, whatever, let's go everywhere, you know what I mean? So, which is good because it's a good balance for me. I like playing their songs. I love their songs. I love sharing the stage with them. They're so like, you know, professional into it and just energetic and stuff. And with my band, I'm just doing like, sometimes we do acoustic, you know, we sit, me and her, sometimes just do our songs. It's just completely like different. And my solo stuff is for sure because I need to do my stuff for my soul.
Your own personal outlet.
Yeah. But don't take me wrong. I am like thinking about, you know, maybe putting a little show together and play here and there, my solo stuff. But again, it's nothing that we like be competing with anything, because it's just like an outlet, you know, of some energy, creative energy that you just want to, you know, play your music here and there. I think it's good for everybody. Something that I learned with my band in Brazil, nobody there was allowed to have side projects, which I think is a big mistake, because it's like a marriage. Like if you're always together the whole time, blah 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 blah, like you start bickering, you know. If you don't have breaks, for like, for example, Richie goes on tour, I go travel, I love those little breaks. It brings her in, like, you know, and you start missing your partner again, those little things. I think it's the same with a band. Like if you're always playing the same stuff over and over with the same people and over, it works for a lot of people. But some people need some outlet. Just, you know, I mean, whatever. Like I like writing songs in Portuguese. Like when am I gonna do that, you know?
Right.
So good to have outlets and side projects sometimes. I learned that after 13 years with that band. I think I learned that it's okay. Just go out, do your little project, put your songs out, come back, and you know, we're all happy again.
It'll be fine.
I think it's good. It's good if you're creative. I think it's a good thing to do your own thing for your own, you know. Why not? There's so much space nowadays for everything.
Right?
I say
put it
this
up on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the sky is huge. There's always spaces for new stars to shine. You know what I mean? Like let it shine.
Yeah.
Why not?
Speaking of which, you have another project which I'm very fond, which is your base and bake, which you also started during this time. So we need to talk about that because this might be my favorite thing that you do aside from Vixen. So I'm of course doing the research for this interview, and I'm supposed to be looking at all the music stuff, which I totally did. And then I get to base and bake and I end up just like obsessively watching what was supposed to be just a little bit enough to get a sense, and I end up just watching episode after episode. So what is base and bake?
Okay, base and bake. Again, I was bored on quarantine and I was like, okay, I want to do this pie that my mom always do in Brazil, but I'm a great cook. I'm not a great baker, you know, that's a big difference. So I get the recipe with my mom and I figure I'm going to film it. Why not? I don't know why I decided to film. I'm just going to film it, my process, and maybe share with people. Why not? And then everything went wrong. So like there was like 10 spoons of flour, for example, and I put 10 cups of flour because I'm a little dyslexic and I'm a little nut. So I'm doing that. And then I figure, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Thank God I'm filming it. So then I decided to edit, to make an addition, whatever, and make like a thing, the whole process. And it was fun. And then the minute I start, you know, editing the video, I'm like, okay, I have to put this sound here. I have to put this and that because, you know, my brain started frying. and then my friend, one of Rich's friend, actually was one of the few friends that was actually coming to the house during quarantine. He was like, you have to name it and maybe you could get someone else and have interviews and blah, blah, blah. And then so he's like, I said, yeah, it could be some base, something baking. And he's like, base and bake. I'm like, yeah, great idea. Done. so you just name it base and bake and start like that. And then I posted and people were like having a blast, commenting on, oh my God, I have to do more, do this, do that. So then I start filming more. It gave me something to do. Yeah. And I'm a Libra. Actually, I born on October 23rd. So I'm like, it's a cusp, they say.
The cusp of two signs.
Yeah, Scorpio and Libra, but I'm Libra. So, but I'm super, you know, perfectionist. Yeah. So I'm like, oh my God. So now people in Brazil are complaining because they don't understand. So I start putting subtitles and then I start. Nice. But I had a blast doing it and it gave me something to do because it's not easy to edit all that. And I do all by myself in the house, have to buy the ingredients, cook, edit, blah. 2 cameras because it can't be only one apparently. And
no, then you gotta get yourself and then you have to get that food. Yeah.
So I was like, it takes like around a week, you know. So now that things are coming back, it's harder to find time to do this. And there's always stuff to do. But I'm planning on doing new episodes, that's for sure. Nice. Because I have 8 episodes and I was doing once a month almost pretty much. So I'm gonna film more because I want to have new guests and I feel like it's a good fun show, you know, just to have some fun and, you know, cook.
It's hilarious. So I believe you that you're a good cook, but I do think you should warn the people at home that not every episode is going to make them a professional chef because it doesn't always go right.
Absolutely.
And it's the better. I almost feel like the worse it goes for you, the better it is to watch.
Absolutely. I'm like, every time something goes wrong, I'm like, yes, because I know I can make something funny out of it. Because like my whole life I was like the whatever, how do you call it, the comedian of the family. I like making people laugh. I like when people are laughing. I mean, that's how I am. My father was like that. I'm like that. So the whole gag is basically to be funny, is for you to laugh of the mistakes. Yeah. And I like when mistakes happen. Like if he's gonna be all cute, okay, what am I gonna do now? But yeah, I mean, by the way, I'm taking suggestions on recipes because
so you had eaten during one of the episodes, you were snacking on your Brazilian cheese bread, and I know it has a proper name. Which
pão de queijo.
Okay. So I had actually tried to cook this, not during quarantine, but a couple years ago. My friend and I went back and forth on Pinterest recipes and I got it to taste right, but they did not come out good. And hers didn't come out. I'm a good cook and she's a very, very, very good cook. but none of ours came out perfect. So I am asking that you do that. And I will be forgiving if yours don't come out perfect either.
I know it's gonna be yucky because it's all about the dough and cheese and
Yeah,
stuff.
and it's a really weird flour. It's a really weird flour, which is
I
like
think it's
tapioca, I think, something like
tapioca.
that. Yeah.
There's tapioca and there's something else that I'm not aware.
And something, I don't know. I mean, I've seen recipes. I was telling you, I've seen recipes that have many, many ingredients, and then the ones I was getting had very few. So that's very suspect. I mean, maybe that's how it's supposed to be. And there was recipes with blender. I mean, Pinterest has everything, but so far I haven't found the right everything. So I am counting on you.
Yeah. I'm very bad at Pinterest, by the way. I don't know how to use that thing, but I have a friend that is great with ponche queijo. I can have her come in. We can do that. A good one. I'm gonna do it.
But I definitely,
I'm glad you like the
everybody
show.
at home. I'm definitely recommending everybody at home watch the show because it is so entertaining and hilarious. And your husband does make an appearance in the show. Every episode I've seen had him in it.
Probably because he was on quarantine. He was always around. And I think one on Halloween, I don't know if it was quarantine already or not, but we did that one. That was a very cool one. I love that one. We all like he's wearing a Joker thing. I'm wearing whatever the heck.
I haven't seen that one yet. So.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good one. That's a creepy one. But he's always showing up he's always around. Yeah.
That's amazing.
He has the appearances.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And you'll definitely have to come back when, anytime you want, but definitely when the solo album is ready. I want you to come back and tell us all about it so we can hear all about the songs and all of that. And obviously come back all the time to talk about Vixen and to talk about Bass and Bake, because Bass and Bake is the most important thing here.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I mean, I love like chatting with you guys. Like, I mean, it's hard to tell everything because we have like I personally have been in the music business for 22 years now.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. It's crazy. So like to have that space just to chat a little bit, because people don't know, right? I mean,
we don't know. We haven't, this is our first time meeting you. And so it's really
Yeah.
nice. So just for everybody at home, this is our first conversation of many, just to lay the groundwork, to hear the story of Vixen, and to start to get to know you. But definitely come back, Julia, and we'll learn a little bit more each time. And then we'll watch Bass and Bake to get a lot of great recipes.
Thank you, Sarah, so much. I hope you have a good day or night or whatever time this is going to be. And thanks to everybody for the support, and keep watching Sarah. And then, I mean, thanks for the space. I love talking about music.
Yay. I hope you enjoyed this interview. Please remember to subscribe to MentalNet TV and let all of your friends know about it. And also, if you can take a minute to leave a nice comment for me and my guest, that would be great as well. Take care and have a great week.